Alright guys, let's start with the sword stuff. We got Oli in the Chariot, Sword's very own tarot card in set 10 Gods of the Arcana. It's a very funny card, very high rolly card, because you can end up killing yourself. So fanfare, choose one of the following. Summon a knight, give him +1 rush and ward, or deal 2 to an enemy leader, or for 4, bury him and summon the advanced version of Olian, which is the Runaway Chariot. The Runaway Chariot says he can't attack enemies, which means no followers or leaders. At the start of your end phase, perform the following 2 times. Roll a 6-sided die. If you roll a 1 or 2, you pop each enemy follower. 3 or 4, deal 7 to enemy leader. Or 5 or 6, deal 7 to yourself. It's very funny, very high rolly. It's not reliable, so I don't think he's going to see a whole lot of representation. It'll be what it is. You know, he's great. Theoretically, like, if you're lucky enough, that's great, but if you're not, but not for the real meat and bones of what sword gets this set. We get the Merchant engine. Merchant is really nice tempo engine, especially like mid to late game, because for 5 you summon Alaska, who summons Illumnesia and the 1-cost chick, and so Alaska will get you both of them from deck and the 2-drop 6/6 token. That's really good. Because what you can do with Alaska is you summon Illumnesia, you can burn an enemy follower for 5 to kind of like clear wards and stabilize out your board and body tempo. And then you can boost Alaska with the 1-drop on Evo to give it a sail so you can swing into something big too. Probably like Vanya's or Riley's for this set. And then it lives with like 1 point. And then you've got the Terminus weapon for the clapback on your turn to push it up, pop something, and then threaten with a 6/6 that if they kill, burns for 4. We get Prudent General, really good early game card, because if you're going second on turn 4, you're setting up for 10/10 in stats, because he, on fanfare, summons the Sealclad and gives all of your swordcraft tokens rush, which is already really good because of the white and black engine, which summons just a lot of tokens inherently through Queen Chimera and Magnus. And then on Evo, you summon another Sealclad, and then you pump them +1 attack and health so that they're 3/3s. And on turn 4, a lot of decks can kind of struggle to out this, because they'll have to answer the Prudent General, they'll have to answer the Sealclad Knights, and then any follow-up potential play you get. Illumnesia is a really good card, especially if you run through however many Evos you have on Alaska, because just dropping Alaska and getting Illumnesia, you're stabilizing your board state while putting out bodies, which, especially in Sword, is something you always want to be doing. You want to be getting bodies constantly. You want to be putting on that pressure. You're one of the best crafts in the game for it, next to Abyss and Dragon, depending on the format. So Forest also with Puppet lately has been able to do that a lot, but it really just depends. Heroic gets support, which is really cool, as that's one of my favorite decks. It's very high rolly, so you could get away with playing the Chariot in this deck. It's very funny. I don't think it's going to be amazing, but, you know, it'll be like one of those fun casual picks. So you get Aerial Slash, which burns 3, so you can aggro quicker, kind of like how Guard Dog is in set 9. And then you can just also burn an enemy follower for 2 if you play it from your hand. And then you get Lightning Kicker, which is probably the best heroic card in this set, because you discard 2 heroics and then summon 2 heroics that cost 3 or less from deck. Usually you want to set up with Amaro and Valiant Fencer, because then you go Fencer's effect, mandatory search, and then if you have 2 or less cards in hand, then you Evo the Fencer, and you either play the Evolved Lightning Kicker to get Storm and pop a card, or you get the Amaro and you play something from grave. So either a Mock Knight to Storm with for 3 to 4 damage, or you play intervention entry, and you try to get some more, bodies out on field, whether they're necessarily heroics, is depending on what you hit, because it is very RNG card. This card's very good. So, but it is kind of overshadowed by the Merchant Engine, just making white and black from set 9 even better, because you have less reliance on monochrome duels, and you don't have to play Prim and Nanja anymore. Then, we got the kind of just random cards that don't necessarily matter. Like, this could be a nice tech if you really care about Prudent Generals, because you're summoning 2 Shield Guardians, which is the 1-drop tokens that are 1/1 wards, or you pay 3 to give each follower +1/+2. But I think this card is just so overshadowed by, like, Ether, because Ether can stat buff your board too, and you get a search. So I don't think this will be too good. We get Nellin with Ward. She gives your 1 attack followers aura. That's not going to matter a whole lot, because you can generate so many night tokens anyway that effect is kind of just win more-y. And at that point, you don't really need it, because you're already swinging for more than 1 if you're using monochromes or Magnus or something, So, and then Nellen's Fanfare says, choose one of the following: deal an enemy follower 3, or search for a Fable follower that costs 2 or less, summon it. So it's theoretically nice, because you could summon Magnus from deck, but Sword Fable isn't really a reliable thing in the same vein that a deck like Egghaven was, or Beauty and the Beast was, because the Fabled cards for Sword aren't amazing. Besides Magnus and Chimera, it's kind of just slim pickings. So then we have Honorable Thief, which is thief support that could get played in the future when the festive stuff comes out near the end of the year, or early next year. So Fanfare, each opponent mills 2, then if there's at least 10, you get to evolve this, which does get around your once per turn Evo restriction, which is pretty nice. And then he just turns into a 3/3 that draws you a card when he dies. Nothing too crazy there. We get a new heroic body as well with Wind Slasher. You look at the top 2 of your deck, put a heroic into your EX. It's pretty good. You could grab early entries or Mock Knights to give it Storm, or you could even grab the 6-drop that comes out this set. It's very good. Especially if you play this on curve, it'll be really nice. And he has Rush, so you can crash into war tokens, kind of like how Kagemitsu or some other cards used to be played. Then we have a 7-drop Arcana card. Fanfare, destroy an enemy follower, discard your hand, draw 3. For 7 points, that's a lot to ask for, and it is not entirely necessary. I don't ever see this card getting remotely played, except maybe in a Spartacus deck, but even then, Spartacus would rather just play 1-cost cards or the Natra Sword stuff to kind of control the game better. Then we have the 1-drop chick for the merchant stuff, Ernesta. She's pretty good. I mean, she's burn damage, she buffs something, and she gives a sale. Like, overall, pretty good card, especially for 1 play point. Because if you do the whole combo with Alaska and you get the other 2 out, and then you just have a play point left, well, now you can end up burning 4 on instep and boosting Alaska by 2 attack instead of just the 1. So you just really put on that, like, pressure that can be really hard, especially in that mid-range game, unless certain decks just have the answers. So, and then we get Pompous Summons. It's either a draw spell, or you search for a swordcraft follower if you have a princess. This card is only probably going to be played in Spartacus Sword in a few sets, just because it's a 1-cost draw spell. Besides that, I don't really see it getting a huge lot of play, because the main types for Sword is Officer and Commander. Princess isn't really something you see a whole lot. Like, the biggest princess card I'd say we'd ever gotten was Mistalina, all the way back in set 7, just because you had Princess Strike, she could storm for 10, but she wasn't the whole focus of the deck. It was the trees, and, Balion, and Mistalina, and all these other cards that were Injunction, instead of just, oh, she's a princess. So I don't see it being very good or reliable.